829. That's 800-929.
When you fly with Hawaiian Airlines, the whole family enjoys free access to Starlink, the fastest Wi-Fi in the sky, thanks to T-Mobile. Stream, scroll, message, and game while sipping a passion orange guava juice. Everyone stays entertained, and your vacation gets a head start. Enjoy every moment of your trip, even before you land. Hawaii starts here.
What do you have to lose? Call 800-923-6829. Again, 800-923-6829.
Live from the heart of SEC country, this is your daily fix of grit, guts, and gridiron glory. Welcome to the Deep South College Football Show.
Bowen, here he goes! Georgia retakes the lead!
Breaking down the biggest matchups, the boldest takes, and the deepest rivalries in college football on Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC.
Intercepted! They confused him! Xavier Brown headed the other way! Touchdown Tide!
From Fayetteville to Gainesville, from the Grove to Toomer's Corner, it's SEC football. Now, here's your award-winning host, Wyatt Fulton.
Check. 1, 2, test. There we go. Third time's the charm. Sorry about that. Running into some technical difficulties this afternoon here. Third time's the charm. Welcome into the Deep South College Football Show on Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide sports here. If you're checking us out on YouTube, we greatly appreciate it. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment. Let us know where you're watching from. If you are watching here on YouTube or the Tide 100.9 Facebook page, we love getting to interact with all of our listeners, all of our callers, and everything like that here on the Deep South College Football Show. Hanging out in the studio today, we got the best producer in the Southeast, Mr. Chase Brumfield. Chase, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well, Wyatt. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. We got Norris hanging out with us yet again here in the studio. Norris, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good to hear. Yeah, we got a fun show for you guys today here. We're going to give you guys the harsh reality of what Alabama's run game is going to be in 2026 here. This isn't going to be a feel-good, nice show. No, we're cutting through the crap here, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the harsh realities of what Alabama's going to face this season here when you look at the 2026 college football season. We heard a little bit earlier today on Tide 100.9 from Alabama offensive lineman William Sanders. He joined Gary Harris live and in studio here at Tide 100.9, our beautiful studios here in Tuscaloosa. And he talked a lot about the run game. He did mention a couple of comments about Alabama's run game here. So we may try and play some of that audio a little bit later in the program if we get a chance to, when you look at Alabama offensive lineman William Sanders talking about Alabama's run game here. But we're going to talk about Alabama's run game today because if you remember the 2025 season for the Alabama Crimson Tide, and we'll pull up the stats here for Alabama so you can get a clear picture of what the run game looked like for the Crimson Tide last season here for the University of Alabama. You look at the stats here on ESPN. This run game left a lot to be desired. Your leading rusher was Alabama running back. Well, I guess it is obviously Alabama running back. Your leading rusher was senior Jam Miller, who had 504 yards, averaged 3.9 yards a carry, and scored 3 touchdowns a season ago for the Crimson Tide. Now, obviously that is less than ideal. That's not what you want from a leading rusher, but you look at Jam Miller and you go, okay, but you missed the first 3 games of the year, right? Remember, in the second scrimmage of fall camp last year, Jam Miller dislocated his collarbone, and so he missed Alabama's week 1 game against Florida State. He missed week 2 against Louisiana Monroe, and he missed week 3 against Wisconsin. Alabama had a bye week in week number 4, and Jim Miller's first game back in action was the victory over Georgia 24-21 in Athens there in week number 5 of the college football season. Following that matchup against Georgia, Jam Miller was healthy for the game against Vanderbilt, and that was his best game of the year. He ran for over 100 yards, looked really, really effective in that victory over Vanderbilt in Tuscaloosa. College Game Day was here in town for that matchup with Alabama and Vanderbilt here. So, again, looked a little bit better, right? The run game, I think, probably one of their best games of the year last year was that victory over the Vanderbilt Commodores in Tuscaloosa. Then Alabama goes to Columbia, Missouri, and Jam Miller, again, is having a pretty decent day, a pretty decent game in that victory over the Missouri Tigers, but left the game due to a head injury later in the contest. He took a swing pass from Ty Simpson out to the flat, gets popped going out of bounds, and does not come back into the game. After that, Daniel Hill stepped in for Alabama, and pretty much for the most part, anytime Jam Miller wasn't able to go, Daniel Hill was the guy that came in and played for Jam Miller. Now, that was not the case early in the year, right? We're painting the entire picture of what Alabama's run game looked like last season. So, week 1, we'll start it out here. No Jam Miller against Florida State. Richard Young, the former 5-star prospect, gets the start, but Kevin Riley also made some good plays in that game against Florida State. Week number 2, Kevin Riley is your starting running back. And then A.K. Deere got some good run in that ball game as well. Again, so did Richard Young. Week 3, it was pretty much the Kevin Riley show against the Wisconsin Badgers. He made a lot of really good plays, catching balls out of the backfield for Alabama. And so you look at Kevin Riley, and he kind of was a budding star for Alabama last season. But Jam Miller does come back against Georgia, against Vanderbilt, and against Missouri. When Jam Miller left the game against the Missouri Tigers, it wasn't Kevin Riley that stepped in. It was Daniel Hill, the sophomore from Meridian, Mississippi, filled in for Alabama when Jam Miller went out in that game against the Missouri Tigers there. And so Daniel Hill, and hell, great on Daniel Hill. He caught the game-winning touchdown from Ty Simpson, a 1-yard pass from Ty Simpson to Daniel Hill in the end zone, solidified the victory for Alabama because they needed it. They needed that touchdown against Missouri. Otherwise, Alabama maybe doesn't win that game in Columbia. You come back the next week, you got Tennessee. Jam Miller still kind of up in the air, right, when you look at the game against Tennessee there. So Daniel Hill and Kevin Riley, again, got the bulk of the run at running back for Alabama. And keep in mind, we now haven't seen A.K. Deere since week number 2. He broke off the 75-yard touchdown, a 56-yard touchdown run against the ULM Warhawks. Haven't seen him since that game, though. At this point in the season, we're talking about the Tennessee game. You haven't seen A.K. Deere. For the most part, it's been Jam Miller when healthy, and if he's not, it's been a combination of Daniel Hill and Kevin Riley. By this point in the season, Richard Young's pretty much worked his way out of the rotation. You get to South Carolina. Jam Miller, again, is starting to look like that running back that you wanted Jam Miller to look like there. And then you get the game again, you get the bye week, so everybody can try and, get healthy. It was Jam Miller again against LSU, and then you play Oklahoma. Daniel Hill had a lot of run in that game. Chase, did you know Daniel Hill had 2 touchdowns in that game against Oklahoma?
I did not. That's crazy.
He led Alabama with 6 touchdowns on the year. Had some really big plays in that matchup against Oklahoma in Tuscaloosa for homecoming. And then here comes Eastern Illinois, kind of that feel-good game. And by this point, we all know, right, Alabama's run game was not effective last season. So they pour it on, over 200 yards rushing and 6 rushing touchdowns for the Crimson Tide against Eastern Illinois. And Chase, I know a lot of people were feeling better about the run game against the Panthers there, but we know that Eastern Illinois was not the team that Alabama needed to flex on. Like Alabama, we knew Alabama could flex on Eastern Illinois. That wasn't a question by any means, but that was a game where Alabama kind of needed to pour it on in the run game a little bit because the College Football Playoff Committee had said, hey, yeah, the reason Alabama's behind Notre Dame right now, they can't run the football worth a lick. They struggle so bad to run the football. And so Eastern Illinois, Alabama just pours it on and on and on and on again a little bit more. And that's the first time we see A.K. Deere since the matchup against Louisiana Monroe earlier in the season.
When you don't order furniture from Wayfair?
The Iron Bowl. big-time matchup with the Iron Bowl, with the Auburn Tigers there. Jam Miller, again, looked pretty daggum effective in the Iron Bowl, but it seemed like any game where Jam Miller was really starting to figure things out, get the gears turning, he'd suffer some sort of an injury, right? He was getting going against Vanderbilt, continued it against Missouri, and then he gets injured against Missouri. He looked really effective in fall camp coming into the season, got injured in that second scrimmage of fall camp. He's getting it going against Auburn. He looks really effective against the Tigers. He's got a lower body injury. He's out for the SEC championship. And again, by this point, Kevin Riley's also out too because he broke his jaw leading up to Eastern Illinois. So now you're down 2 running backs, 2 guys that have played meaningful reps for you this season. As you can see from the stat sheet there, Kevin Riley, your 3rd leading rusher, Jam Miller, your leading rusher, both of them are gone. You're heading into the SEC championship with 2 running backs. One of them has only played 2 games over the course of the season in AK Deer. You get to the SEC championship, and it is just a cluster. It blows up to high hell. And you finish the SEC championship with -3 rushing yards. -3. That's what you did in Atlanta against the Georgia Bulldogs. And so you come out against Oklahoma in the college football playoff. The run game isn't really effective until later in that matchup when Daniel Hill kind of sealed the deal with his last rushing touchdown there inside of 5 minutes left in that game against Oklahoma. And then you go to the Rose Bowl in Indiana. You get popped in the mouth. Your defense gives up. Your offensive line can't get any push. And it was very evident early. Chase, you remember early in that game, Alabama had a 4th down on their side of the field, and they lined Daniel Hill up in that wildcat formation. And instead of powering it forward with an offensive line that, I felt like had some pretty good power. Cam Dewberry was a really big physical guy. Caden Proctor, really big, really physical. Parker Brailsford, maybe not as big, but was still very physical, was kind of punching above his weight class, right? And then you've got maulers on that offensive line and guys like Michael Carroll. Jaden Roberts was a guy that I thought would be better for Alabama, or I thought would get more playing time last season for Alabama. And you line up in the Wildcat with your big bruising running back on 4th and 1. And what do? It's a jet sweep to Jeremy Bernard that just goes absolutely nowhere. Indiana ends up scoring, and then the Rose Bowl, it's just on by that point for Indiana. So that was last year's struggles. You see the stats there. Alabama's leading rusher was Jam Miller with 504 yards. As a team, they rushed for 1,562 yards, averaging 3.4 yards a carry and 21 rushing touchdowns. Compare that to what happened in 2024 with Jalen Milroe leading the charge, 2,200 yards, but 4.6 yards a carry and 41 rushing touchdowns for the Crimson Tide. So let's talk about the run game in 2026. What will it look like in 2026? And what did Alabama do to make these changes to the run game to try and get better in that area in 2026? We'll talk about it on the other side in the next segment here on the Deep South College Football Show, on our YouTube page, the Tide 100.9 Facebook page, my X account at FultonW_, and on the radio on Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC.
Get the brands pros trust, priced right, and ready when you need them. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 5/27. While supplies last, selection varies by location.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Here's your Tuscaloosa and West Alabama forecast. Sunny, hot here this afternoon. 90 the high today. Light southerly breezes. A slight chance of rain showers this evening. Partly cloudy overnight. Low 70. Better chance to get wet tomorrow with scattered showers and thunderstorms in the forecast. A high 88. The same holds true for Thursday, with Thursday's high warm and sticky 87. More storms on Friday. Highs in the mid-80s. Richard DeWething at the Weather Channel for Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
It's 86 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Stay locked in, Tide fans. This is Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC, the home of Alabama Crimson Tide sports.
Welcome back into the Deep South College Football Show. We spent the last segment kind of reliving some of the harsh realities of Alabama's run game last season. Now we transition to 2026 here as we got Chase Brumfield hanging out with us here in the Tide 100.9 studios here. Now we talk about the 2026 edition of Alabama's run game, right? Because you remember last season, again, we just went through it in the previous segment. All that to say, not the best run game for the Crimson Tide last season. But now you look at 2026. What did they do to try to improve in that run game, right? Well, for starters, you fire the offensive line coach. Chris Kapilovic making over $900,000 a year at Alabama, and the run game got worse from 2024 to 2025. Is part of that because of what you lost in Jalen Milroe and his ability to kind of mask some of those issues in the run game with his dynamic rushing ability? Yes, 110%. Yes. Jalen Milroe masked a lot of the issues in the run game because of what he was able to do with his legs. I mean, Chase, we all talk about, that 2024 Georgia game is one of the best games of all time. Do we remember how Alabama's opening scoring drive went? Jalen Milroe literally sidestepping a Georgia defender who's coming just free rush. I don't know what happened on the right side of the offensive line, but here comes a Georgia defender just, pardon the language, butt booty naked down the middle of that offensive line, and Jalen Milroe's got to hit him with the sidestep and then ends up taking it for a 10, 15-yard gain. I mean, what he was able to do in masking the run game was so effective for Alabama. You lost that with Ty Simpson. No disrespect to Ty Simpson. He's not the runner that Jalen Milroe was. He's got some wheels. He's got legs on him, all right? He's not a statue in the pocket, but it's not what Jalen Milroe was. Not the speed, not the power that Milroe had. So Milroe masked a lot of those issues in 2025. The run game clearly was not good enough. And Alabama recognized that. Kalen DeBoer recognized that, and they moved off of offensive line coach Chris Kapilovic. They brought in Adrian Clem, the offensive line coach from the Oregon Ducks. His most recent collegiate offensive line coaching experience was with the Oregon Ducks in 2022. He also had experience with the New England Patriots and the Pittsburgh Steelers in the NFL. But when Alabama hired him, he was an offensive analyst for the USC Trojans and head coach Lincoln Riley. Chase, going back to his most recent collegiate offensive line coaching experience, do you know just off the dome what Oregon was able to do with their offensive line in 2022?
I don't think it was like jaw breaking, but I think it was enough to move the offense up and down.
You had a 1,000-yard rusher.
Who was the quarterback in 2022?
It was Bo Nix. He was your starting quarterback in 2022.
Yeah.
Your starting running back, Bucky Irving.
Ooh, stud.
Your backup running back, Noah Whittington. Bucky Irving was a 1,000-yard rusher. Alabama has not had one of those since 2021 with Brian Robinson. But Bucky Irving rushed for 1,000 yards. Backup running back Noah Whittington rushed for 779 yards. Quarterback Bo Nix ran for 510 yards. Oregon's top three rushers from that 2022 season all outrushed what Alabama's leading rusher did in 2025. Chase, do you know how many times Bo Nix was sacked in 2022? It was such a big talking point because it wasn't very often. Do you know how many times he was sacked in 2022?
No, it's under like 40. It wasn't a lot. I know the fair facts.
5.
Jesus.
Bo Nix was sacked 5 times in 2022. So already you can tell, all right, run game pretty efficient. They've got 1,700 rushing yards between their top two guys. Now, as a team, they only rushed for 2,805. Oregon, I think, was not, if I'm not mistaken, Oregon, 2022, were they a 10-2 team that year? Or were they 9-3? I don't have the schedule pulled up in front of me. I got the stats pulled up in front of me. I guess I could just go pull up the schedule here. Looking at Oregon's 2022 schedule. Yes, they were 9-3. Got smoked by Georgia in week 1 there, and then didn't lose again until they played Kalen DeBoer in Washington on November the 12th, and then lost the regular season finale at Oregon State 38-34. But okay, so Bo Nix was sacked 5 times that year. Defensively for the Georgia Bulldogs here, well, okay, never mind. When you get so far back into the past, a lot of times they don't show those defensive stats. If I'm not mistaken, most of those sacks did come in that game against Georgia, though, because of what Georgia was on defense in 2022. Remember, that was the year that they went back-to-back national champions there. So even still, though, 2,805 as a team, not stellar, but everything, their average, I think, was such a big deal. 5.5 yards per carry on average. You realize that means if you run the ball on first down, you're coming to the line of scrimmage 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4. And you know what that allows you to do? That allows you to take that deep shot that Kalen and Ryan Grubb love to set up. That allows you to get guys down the field. That would allow you to put, hey, Latsier Brooks in the slot, Sedarian Morgan out at X, or Derek Meadows, or when he's healthy, Noah Rogers, and Ryan Coleman-Williams. That's your Z. And we're going to throw a post to Ryan Coleman-Williams, or we're going to throw a deep crosser to Latsier Brooks across the middle of the field, deep in with Sedarian Morgan or Derek Meadows. That allows you to get those pass plays off that Alabama was pretty effective at, despite not having a great run game last season. How many times did we see Jeremy Bernard get hit on a dig route deep down the field, 10, 15, 20 yards downfield? Jeremy Bernard's running a deep end. How many times did we see that last year? A bunch. And Alabama was able to do that even without an effective run game. So I'm not saying that the run game needs to be this, we need 2 1,000-yard rushers, or Alabama needs to have, a 1,500-yard rusher. But you got to be better than what you were last year. You've got to be better than what you were last season if you're looking at Alabama's run game. Norris, you got something to say?
I just miss the days Alabama beat everybody to sleep. That's it. I just wanted to say that.
Those days were fun, man. But, at the same time, I don't know that you'll get, the Mark Ingram and Trent Richardson days where Ingram's rushing for 1,300 yards, but, Trent Richardson's also got 1,000. I don't know that you're going to see that at any point anytime soon. But the run game's got to be better. How can it be better? And what do we need to expect, right? Do we need to expect having, a 1,500-yard rusher? Do we need to expect a leading rusher only having 600, 700 yards? We'll talk about what Alabama's going to do, or at least what I think Alabama's going to do, because we mentioned they fire Chris Kapilovic. They hire Adrian Clem. They transition 11 new offensive linemen into the program, and they brought in 2 new running backs. We'll talk about it on the other side here on Tide 100.9 at 1230 AM WTBC.
Get it done by the professionals at 80 Teeth Precision Armory. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 behind Big John's Barbecue in Moundville. They do the weird stuff.
What does it mean to advertise and do your marketing with Town Square Media Tuscaloosa? Melissa started her business in 2014. What would you say to someone considering Town Square Media Tuscaloosa?
My experience with Town Square Media has been awesome, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone. I think that this is the first time in my marketing experience that I've been able to see my return on investment. I would definitely say in the past that has not been the case. In this, I like knowing that that's 100%. A lot of the marketing we've done has been radio. You guys have so much more to offer than that, whether it's, websites, from targeted marketing to radio. You are kind of a one-stop shop, and it makes doing marketing so much easier. So I would definitely recommend it.
There are 2 types of business owners: those who are busy and those who want to be busy. Toast is designed for both, with tools to keep you humming and help turn grind into growth. That's how you turn busy into business. Toast, built for busy.
It's easy and it's free. Go to mylocalcustomers.com today.
That's mylocalcustomers.com. Mylocalcustomers.com.
You're listening to the home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. Tide 100.9.
So what did Alabama do to fix their run game? Well, we talked about the new offensive line coach in the previous segment, Adrian Clement, kind of his history and what he brings to the program. But you brought in 11 new offensive linemen if you're the University of Alabama, right? So you look at the offensive line now, from left to right last year in 2025. Caden Proctor, 12th overall pick to the Miami Dolphins. Cam Dewberry signed a UDFA contract with UDFA's undrafted free agent, by the way, for those that don't know. Undrafted free agent contract with the Atlanta Falcons. Parker Brailsford drafted in the 5th round by the Cleveland Browns. Wilkin Formby transferred to Texas A&M. The next guy up at that spot, Geno Vandemark, declared for the NFL draft as well. And by the way, so did Jaden Roberts. So already you're losing a lot of key contributors from last year's offensive line. Jaden Roberts signed an undrafted free agent contract with the Philadelphia Eagles. Michael Carroll is back, but he could be playing a new position. We talked about it a lot during spring practice for Alabama. Michael Carroll was your right tackle for the latter half of last season, but it seems like they may be transitioning him back to right guard because you may have another option there at right tackle. So, Chase, you've got 4 guaranteed new offensive linemen, maybe even 5 when you look at Michael Carroll having to play a new position here. You bring in 11 new guys, and your offensive line is going to look brand new this upcoming season. The projected starting offensive line for Alabama. This is a projection. This is kind of what we saw from spring practice, what we were hearing out of spring practice. Obviously, they're doing summer workouts right now. Or no, those will start here soon because it's only May 19th. They'll start summer workouts here pretty soon. And then we'll roll into fall camp in late July or early August as we get ready for the season in September. Jackson Lloyd, former 5-star prospect out of Carmel, California, is your projected starting left tackle. At left guard, you're projecting William Sanders, who was in studio with us this morning with the Gary Harris Show. Great interview, by the way. I'd go check that out. Gary Harris has posted it. We've written a couple of articles on Tide109.com. Gary did a great job with William Sanders there, promoting his youth football camp and talking a little bit about the University of Alabama. William Sanders is your projected starting left guard. Jackson Lloyd at left tackle. At center, you brought in a transfer, Rayson Delgatti from Cal Poly. Now, I understand everybody's going to say it's Cal Poly. It's, he's undersized, blah, blah, blah. We heard the same things with Parker Brailsford, but Alabama's got some pretty good luck taking these kids from some lower rated schools. Justin Jefferson, the big linebacker for Alabama last season, was a JUCO prospect, right? You look at Josh Cuevas. He came in from Cal Poly via Washington. He started his career at Cal Poly, transferred to Washington with under Kalen DeBoer, then left Washington and came to Alabama with Kalen DeBoer. And you saw what he was. He was the key cog in that Alabama offense last season. He was, to use the term Greg Byrne likes to use when talking about football, the engine that pulled the train in that offense. And we saw that offense kind of sputter in the Iron Bowl and in the SEC Championship when Josh Cuevas was not healthy and could not play in those games there. He was back for Oklahoma. Alabama drops 34 on the Sooners in a playoff victory. At right guard, you expect it to be Michael Carroll. That's the reps that he kind of ended spring practice getting the most reps at, was at that right guard spot. At right tackle, you're looking at Javen James, Mississippi State offensive line transfer that has started some big games at left tackle for Mississippi State. So somebody with starting experience in the SEC. That's kind of what you were getting in Javen James. If that's your starting five on the offensive line, I do feel better about next year's offensive line for Alabama than I did in 2025. I feel better about the 26th unit than I did in 25 here, Chase.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about. I think with the new offensive line coaching experience he's had, it's not he hasn't gone to any other random school. He has pedigree, he has experience. I think also too, you think about there's more that they can do. I think the running game, like you mentioned earlier, I think is implemented in the offensive line. I think with what you mentioned with Jackson Lloyd, I remember a couple months ago, really recently, Ryan Grubb was over the moon with Jackson Lloyd. So I think that's a huge sign. I've heard great things about Rayson Delgatti. He really wowed with spring practice. Even, I believe, in A-Day, he had some reps. So I think there's going to be some opportunities to be made. This is the SEC. It just means more, like you always tell me, Wyatt. But I'm excited for it, too. And to have Michael Carroll, too, to be able to talk to him at A-Day, he is very confident in his game. And I think this is going to be a big year for the offensive line. It's just, like you said, you got to put pen to paper, but I like the paper that they're going to put pen to.
I like the paper a lot. On paper, now, again, college football games are not played on paper. They're played on a football field. But on paper, this offensive line does look pretty good. Now, again, everything looks great on paper, right? Oklahoma looked great on paper last season. They looked phenomenal on paper. They bring in Jaden Ott, one of the leading rushers in the ACC from Cal. Jaden Ott had, 8 rushing yards last year? John Mateer looked great at Wazoo. John Mateer suffered a thumb injury and was not the same player that he was first half of the season as compared to the second half of the season with the thumb injury he had against Auburn and the knee injury he suffered later in the season. Texas damn near should have been unstoppable last year on paper. And they got stopped 3 times, once by Ohio State, once by Florida, and then once by, not just stopped, they got steamrolled by Georgia last season. So everybody looks great on paper. Preseason magazine season's coming up. Everybody's going to look phenomenal, man. Oh, how are they going to stop? How are we going to stop this player? How are we going to stop this offense? Wait a minute. I mean, we'll take Texas again. Not saying Texas is going to be bad this year, because I actually think Texas will be a pretty good program this season, but you take Texas, right? Arch Manning, Raleigh Brown, Hollywood Smothers, Cam Coleman, Ryan Wingo, Ryan Niblett. Oh, my God, how the hell are we going to stop Texas? It's very, very hard to go 12-0. especially in the modern landscape of college football. It's very, very difficult to get 18 to 23, 24, depending on the program, 18 to 23, 24-year-olds to get up and active and ready to go and play game in, game out, down in, down out with perfect levels of execution. It's damn near impossible at this point. So on paper, this offensive line does look to be a unit that could be something. This run game looks like it could be something. And by the way, William Sanders talked about the run game here with Gary Harris this morning. Chase, do we have that audio? We're working on getting it here.
Yes, I have full audio. If you need it, I can find clips of it if you want me to as well.
Can we see if we can find what William Sanders had to say about the running backs? We'll look for that audio clip here in just a couple of moments here. But I'll give my thoughts on the running backs, and then we'll hear what William Sanders had to say about the run game this morning with Gary Harris here on Tide 100.9. The running back room, you bring back Daniel Hill. He's a big bruising back, dealt with some injuries last season, but he slimmed up a little bit, which I think has added to maybe some elusiveness. That was one of the big criticisms in his game, was that, hey, he may not have the elusiveness to be, a down in, down out type of player. But if he's your big heavy back in goal line situations, 3rd and short, 4th and short, short yardage situations, you feel pretty good with Daniel Hill at that spot. Your next guy up was Kevin Riley last season. Now, what Daniel Hill can do as a bruiser, Kevin Riley is more of a finesse guy, right? He catches out of the backfield. He's, the guy that they like to use on those wheel routes. They'll slot him out in the slot out wide and, put him on that side of the field and make him go catch passes. But he's also got some shiftiness to his game. So we really, really like what Kevin Riley can bring in that aspect. If you want to get the running back involved in the pass game, that's probably where Kevin Riley comes into play. You've got former 5-star A.K. Deere from Quitman, Mississippi, who came into Alabama and played in a couple of games last season for the Crimson Tide. Very, very fast, very, very elusive, but we got to see more from A.K. Deere. Chase, we only got A.K. Deere for 3 or 4 games last season. We got to see more from him before I'm willing to just go out and say, yep, that's the guy. He's going to fix the running back room. We're not worried whatsoever. Got to see a little more from A.K. Deere before we can finally, officially attach him with that label. We'll say, though, during spring practice, he looked bigger. He looked stronger. And you kind of saw that on A-Day, right? He was able to shake a couple of tackles. Arm tackles are such a big thing. If you can shake an arm tackle, that turns a 2-yard run into a 4-yard run. That turns a 4-yard run into a 10-yard run, if you can shake those arm tackles. So getting a guy like A.K. Deere, who's got that speed, who's got that finesse, if you can bulk him up a little bit, get a little more strength on him, get some more muscle on him, then suddenly maybe A.K. Deere is a guy that, can be a down and down out player for Alabama if it's necessary. And then you brought in 2 true freshmen as well. You brought in E.J. Crowell, the 5-star running back from Jackson, Alabama, who garners a lot of hype, Chase. I mean, we've talked with players, we've talked with coaches, we've heard from players and coaches on other interviews. I've talked with the coach down there at Jackson before. Everybody's really, really high on E.J. Crowell. The problem, E.J. Crowell had a right calf injury and did not participate in the vast majority of spring practice for Alabama. So the talent's there. Over 2,000 rushing yards in his final season of high school football, 5-star prospect, Mr. Football in the state of Alabama, Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Alabama, but couldn't stay healthy in spring practice. More so of we're going to do this, we're going to play this safe. We don't really need him fully healthy in spring. We'd rather have him fully healthy in September, in October, when we are playing these marquee games and these marquee matchups. So I get what Alabama was doing, kind of trying to keep him healthy there. And then you bring in Trayshawn Brown. And he's a very under the radar, I think when Alabama added him, a lot of people said, yep, you need cannon fodder for practice, right? You need somebody to go out there and take these hits in practice. You need somebody to run the scout team at running back. That's what Trayshawn Brown is, right? No, that may not be the case, because we've heard from Ryan Grubb. We've heard from Kalen DeBoer. We've heard from other players as well. Hey, wait a minute. Trayshawn Brown's making plays. He's showing the shiftiness. He's showing the speed. He's showing the power to be able to break tackles here. When you look at the former 3-star signee from the state of Texas at running back there. Had 7 games of 100-plus rushing yards as a senior in high school, signed with Alabama after early signing day, and he comes into spring practice kind of under the radar, like I mentioned, very under the radar prospect there, but really started to shine out, really started to do some really good things there at A-Day. And so don't take it from me, though. Take it from Alabama offensive lineman William Sanders, who was on with the Gary Harris Show this morning here on Tide 100.9. Here's what William Sanders had to say about the run game for Alabama in 2026 with Gary Harris earlier this morning.
But you're not immune to what's being said. You're on social media. The running game, fans have been concerned. There's no way around it. And statistically, it has not been great, particularly last season. Coach Clem seems to me, watching him in spring, not that all offensive line coaches don't want to be physical. They all want to be physical. I get that. But it seems like that really is his mindset, and that he wants to bring more of a, hey, we're going to line up and hit some people in the mouth. Am I right there?
Yes, sir, definitely. Big downhill guy.
Yeah.
Big, gain ground, get vertical, put on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage.
Right.
And that was like one of the first things he said when he met us. And honestly, I love that, you know. Great coach, great guy, and very, very physical and
that was Alabama offensive lineman William Sanders. I mean, you got to go punch people in the mouth. Chase, we cover the SEC. These guys play in the SEC. They know the physicality it takes to be competitive in the SEC. You've got to have a desire. You've got to want to be nasty. You've got to want to be mean. You've got to want to punch somebody in the mouth every freaking play. And it didn't seem like they had that last season. I don't know if it was the personality of the offensive coordinator. Doesn't seem like it, because Chase, we've heard from Ryan Grubb numerous times. That is a guy that loves physicality. He's aggressive. It's not his personality to be this passive guy, to be this, I'm going to sit back and I'm not going to do it. We're not going to get physical. That's not Ryan Grubb's personality. What you got, Norris?
You know what I think, really? I don't think it was any of that. I just don't think Alabama was focused. I don't think they were focused for real. Because you're right, it looks good on paper and they all look good itself, but, like, look at behind the scenes. They weren't focused for real. Like, I know this is way off topic a little bit, like, when you're making TikToks in the locker room and stuff like that, you're not focused. You're not trying to win a game.
Yeah.
You're not focused on any of that.
You're not focused. You're not doing your job, right? Your job is to go out and win football games. Your job is to go out and be physical. Play freaking football. Hit somebody in the mouth, right? I want, like, if I'm a fan, right? If I'm a fan of a team, I want my team to be the most physical team out there. Nick Saban said it best. You go out there and perfectly execute, play in and play out, dominate the game, and the quote that everybody loves to say, make their ass quit. Make them quit. Make them give up. And Alabama did not have that level of focus last season. I don't necessarily think it was anything with Ryan Grubb. I don't think it's like his personality or anything like that. Ryan Grubb is very stubborn, very bullish in a good way, that he's going to find success. You don't become a Division I, you don't become an offensive coordinator at the Division I level from Sioux Falls and not be physical and not be aggressive and not be stubborn and not figure things out. You have to do that if you're going to elevate from Sioux Falls, an NAIA school, no disrespect to Sioux Falls, an NAIA school, and work your way up to Washington, a Division I program, go to the national championship. You go to the NFL with the Seattle Seahawks, and then you come back to Tuscaloosa, and you're now the offensive coordinator at the University of Alabama. You don't do that if you are not physical, if you're not aggressive, if you're not stubborn enough to make things work and figure it out. That just doesn't happen. So we know it's not Ryan Grubb. We know it's not Kalen DeBoer, because he's had successful run games before. I'm not saying best run game in the country. I'm not saying, 2,000 rusher or anything like that. But he's had a successful run game. He's had a good enough run game before. So I don't think it's Kalen DeBoer. Did Alabama think it was the offensive line coach? Was it Chris Kapilovic? Was he and again, I'm not trying to pin blame or anything like that. I'm not trying to, poo-poo on anybody or anything like that. But Alabama clearly thought the offensive line coaching was not good enough last season. So they get rid of the offensive line coach. You get rid of 11 of the players that were in that room last season via the NFL draft and the transfer portal. You bring in 11 new guys. You bring in somebody who is physical, who is aggressive. Adrian Clem is a physical, aggressive coach. Is this what Alabama needs for its run game in 2026? Yes, I think it absolutely is. Now, don't expect the run game to be fixed immediately. If you came out of spring practice disappointed in Alabama's run game, I get it. I understand the frustrations with it. But at the same time, you're bringing in a new scheme with a new offensive line coach. You're bringing in 11 new players. You're not even going with your full strength of offensive linemen because Ethan Fields missed A-Day, missed the latter half of spring practice, and William Sanders didn't even participate in spring practice whatsoever. So guess what? You're not operating at 100% capacity. But if you watched A-Day, if you went out there and saw the Crimson Tide or watched any of the 500 live streams out there from A-Day, the run game at least was a little more productive, right? Now I know everyone's going to point to the stats. Well, Daniel Hill only had, 2.5 yards a carry. Well, okay, yes, but Daniel Hill had a run of 5 yards, another run of 5 yards, and then was tackled for a 2-yard loss. So suddenly, in one carry, you went from 10 yards per carry down to whatever, So maybe the stats are skewed a little bit when you look at what happened on A-Day. The run game did look a little bit better. It did look a little bit more progressive. Now, that's not to say it's fixed. That's not to say Kalen DeBoer said it coming on with Ryan Fowler immediately after A-Day. If we had to play tomorrow, I'd be horrified. I'd be terrified of what this team looks like. We are not ready to play a football game right now. The benefit of that, you still got summer workouts. You still game or two. You've even got a handful of games to improve and get better and get ready before you dive into the meat of that schedule coming up in the football season. We'll take a last break here, and on the other side, we'll wrap up the loose ends here on Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide sports.
West Alabama real-time news update from the Tuscaloosa Thread Newsroom.
A longtime grocer is making moves to open his 6th local Piggly Wiggly store, replacing the closed Winn-Dixie in the East Tuscaloosa neighborhood of 5 Points. The first director of development at the Saban Center will leave that role to return to the DCH Foundation, where she's been named a vice president. And it's primary election day. Polls are open until 7 o'clock tonight as both major parties work to choose their candidates for the November general election. For the details on these stories and more free coverage of local news, get connected at TuscaloosaThread.com.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Tuesday edition of The Game, we'll stop off in New Orleans and we'll talk a little LSU Tigers softball, football, all of the above with Mike Detillier. We'll talk a little Alabama softball with Coach Patrick Murphy coming up. We'll talk also with Chris Childers from SiriusXM, all starting at 2 p.m. here on The Game with Ryan Fowler on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest-running sports talk show in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6.
I'm Barry Moore. I rolled up my sleeves in Congress, and I'll keep fighting for Alabama in the U.S. Senate. I'm Barry Moore, a conservative fighter, and I approve this message.
Approved and paid for by Barry Moore for U.S. Senate. Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Here's your Tuscaloosa and West Alabama forecast. Sunny, hot here this afternoon. 90 the high today. Light southerly breezes. A slight chance of rain showers this evening. Partly cloudy overnight. Low 70. Better chance to get wet tomorrow with scattered showers and thunderstorms in the forecast. A high 88. Same holds true for Thursday, with Thursday's high warm and sticky 87. More storms on Friday. Highs in the mid-80s. Richard DeWething at the Weather Channel for Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
It's 90 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Never miss a moment of the action. Download the free Tide 100.9 app today.
That'll do it for us today today here on the Deep South College Football Show. Big thanks to Chase and Norris for hanging out with us here in the studio and talking a little run game for the University of Alabama. Coming up next on the radio side, the game with Ryan Fowler from 2 until 6 p.m. We'll be back here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, here with the Deep South College Football Show on the Wednesday edition of the Deep South College Football Show. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 1 o'clock Central Time.
When you fly with Hawaiian Airlines, it's hard to tell where your flight ends and family vacation begins. From the moment you board, feel the aloha spirit, hear the sounds of Hawaii, and relax with local entertainment at your seat. Let us welcome your family to our island home. Hawaii starts here.